The road twisted into silence long before Amara saw the gates. Dust kicked up behind the rickety bus as it drove off, the driver crossing himself before speeding away. She was left alone, suitcase in hand, staring up at the towering wrought iron archway that read, Ilo Mansion, 1871. A strange wind rustled the trees, even though the air was still. The mansion loomed on the hill like it had been carved from shadow, all black stone and arched windows, with ivy climbing its sides like veins. She hesitated. Then, the gate creaked open on its own. Amara's footsteps echoed as she climbed the stone path. By the time she reached the front door, the sun had dipped low, casting orange streaks over the sharp ridges of the roof. A crow cawed once from above, then flew off. The door opened before she could knock. An older woman stood there, hunched, eyes hollow, mouth tight. "Mama Keji," she said flatly. "Come in." Inside, the air felt colder, cleaner, sterile. "You'll sleep in the east wing. Breakfast is at 6. Don't go near the west wing," Mama Keji said without turning. "Why not?" Amara asked. The old woman paused, her back still turned. "Because she said so." That night, Amara unpacked slowly. The room was elegant. Too elegant for a maid. Polished floorboards, velvet curtains, and an old-fashioned mirror that stood taller than her. She opened the wardrobe to hang her dress and froze. Inside was a maid's uniform, her size, already ironed and waiting. A tiny name tag stitched in gold thread read, "Unuli," but she wasn't Unuli, and someone had already worn this uniform. A faded bloodstain marked the inside of the collar. The wind howled. Somewhere down the hall, a door slammed. She hadn't closed any. Amara stepped back from the wardrobe. The mirror beside her fogged up on its own, as if someone had breathed against the glass. And right there, just behind her reflection, stood a girl. The next morning, the sun barely lit the sky when Amara woke to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. They were slow, heavy, dragging. She sat up quickly. Her room was quiet, but the sound had already passed. She couldn't tell if it was a dream or real. Everything about this house felt like a dream, or a trap. Amara got dressed and stared at the strange uniform inside the wardrobe. It wasn't just her size. It fit like it had been sewn for her. She tried to ignore the brown stain near the collar, but as she buttoned it up, the fabric scratched her skin. It felt wrong, like it didn't want to be worn again. Downstairs, Mama Keji was setting the table. There was food, soft bread, pap, and boiled eggs, but the air was cold. The kind of cold that sits under your skin. "No talking at breakfast," Mama Keji muttered, without looking at her. "Is Madam Onari awake?" Amara asked, her voice low. Mama Keji's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. Then she slowly put it down. "You do your work. You clean what's dirty. You don't ask about her. Understand?" Amara nodded, but her stomach twisted. Something was very wrong. By afternoon, she was dusting the grand staircase when she found something strange tucked under the carpet. A name tag, just like the one on her uniform, but this one said, "Chinello." Another maid? She searched the rest of the step, heart racing. Nothing else, just the tag, as if someone had ripped it off in a hurry. Later that night, the whispering returned. It wasn't coming from outside her room. It was coming from inside the mirror. Amara walked slowly toward the tall mirror by the wardrobe. The glass was clean, still, empty. Then it fogged over, as if someone had breathed on it from the inside. And in the misty glass, a face appeared. A girl, pale, with long dark braids and wide, scared eyes. Her mouth moved. At first, there was no sound. Then the whisper came, "Don't let her cut you." Amara screamed. The mirror went black. Amara didn't sleep that night. She sat on her bed with the light on, arms around her knees, staring at the mirror across the room. It looked normal again. No fog, no girl, but the words kept replaying in her mind. "Don't let her cut you." What did it mean? The next morning, Amara walked into the kitchen to find Mama Keiji stirring a pot of soup. The old woman looked tired. Her eyes were darker than usual. Amara hesitated, then asked, "Who was Chinello?" Mama Keiji's hand froze. "Where did you hear that name?" she asked. "I found her name tag under the stairs," Amara said quietly. "Was she a maid here before me?" Mama Keiji didn't answer right away. She turned off the stove and wiped her hands on her wrapper. "She left," she said finally. "Left?" Amara repeated. "Where did she go?" Mama Keiji looked up. Her eyes were sharp now, warning. "No one knows. One morning she was gone, just like the others." Amara felt her throat go dry. "What others?" There was silence. Then Mama Keiji whispered, "They all leave, but never through the gate." That night, Amara cleaned the grand hallway. Her hands moved, but her mind raced. How could so many girls just vanish? She stepped into the drawing room to dust the shelves when she noticed a painting on the wall. It was of Madam Onari, elegant with a small smile, seated in a velvet chair. But the date on the painting read 1904. No, that couldn't be right. She looked younger in the painting, yes, but not that much younger. Still the same sharp eyes, same face. The floorboard behind her creaked. Amara spun around, but there was no one there. She turned back to the painting. Madam Onari's painted smile looked wider now. Or was it her imagination? A soft voice echoed down the hall. "Amara." She dropped the cloth and stepped back. "Amara." The voice was calling her, not loudly, just enough to chill her blood. The voice stopped just as suddenly as it had started. Amara stood frozen in the hallway, staring into the dark. The air felt heavier, like the house itself was holding its breath. She didn't know what scared her more, the whisper or the silence that followed. She backed away from the drawing room and walked quickly to her room. She turned the key, locked the door, and slid the dresser in front of it. The mirror stood in the corner, tall and still. She avoided it. She lay on the bed, facing the wall, but sleep never came. The hours dragged. Outside, an owl hooted. Then, the sound of soft footsteps again, slow, barefoot, like someone pacing. Then, a knock. Not on her door, on the mirror. One knock, then another, then a pause. Amara turned slowly. In the dim light of her small desk lamp, the mirror fogged up again, and the girl returned. This time, her face was clearer. Maybe 15 years old, maybe younger, skin pale, eyes wide, and lips trembling. Amara whispered, "Who are you?" The girl looked around, as if afraid someone might hear. Then, she lifted her hand and pressed her palm to the inside of the glass. Blood trickled from her wrist, soaking the sleeve of her white blouse. Amara stepped closer. The girl's mouth moved. Again, no sound. So Amara whispered, "Say it again." Then the voice came, soft but urgent. "Don't let her cut you, like she cut me." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "What did she do to you?" The girl looked terrified now. She held up a necklace, a tiny carved charm on a red string. Amara blinked. That same charm hung on the wall in Madam Onari's private study. Before she could ask more, the door to her room rattled. Someone was trying to open it. The mirror girl turned, panic on her face. She looked right at Amara and mouthed, "She's coming." The mirror went black. Amara rushed to move the dresser, her hands shaking. The door stopped rattling. Whoever was there was gone, or waiting. By morning, Amara made a decision. She had to know the truth. She couldn't trust Mama Keiji. She couldn't leave. And the girl in the mirror was the only one trying to warn her. There was only one place she hadn't seen, the West Wing. Madam Onari had said it was off limits. Mama Keiji repeated the same. But now, the warning felt more like a threat than a rule. After lunch, Amara waited until the hallway was clear. Mama Keiji was napping in the kitchen chair. The mansion was quiet, too quiet. She slipped down the main corridor, past the drawing room, past the staircase, to a heavy wooden door with gold hinges. Her hands trembled as she turned the handle. Locked. But just above the doorknob, she saw something strange. Scratch marks. Thin, desperate scratches like someone had clawed at the wood. There were dark smudges near the base of the door. Blood? Amara stepped back. Then she remembered something. In the broom cupboard earlier that week, she had found an old set of keys. Mama Keiji had said, Leave those, they're useless. But now? She ran to the cupboard, pulled them out, and returned. One by one, she tested each key until finally, click, the door unlocked. The hinges creaked as it opened. Cold air rushed out, heavy and damp. Inside was darkness, with a narrow hallway lit only by a single flickering bulb. At the end, a door with strange markings burned into the wood. Symbols, circles, lines, and a single word written in chalk. Ofari. A forgotten word from her village, it meant sacrifice. She stepped closer, then heard it. Breathing. Low, raspy, right behind the door. Her heart pounded in her chest. She took one step back, ready to run. And the breathing stopped. The doorknob turned from the inside. Amara gasped and ran, slamming the west wing door shut behind her, locking it, then dropping the keys and fleeing down the hallway. She didn't stop until she was back in her room, chest heaving, palms shaking. From behind the wall, the whisper returned. You opened it. Now it knows. Amara barely ate that night. Her hands shook as she washed the dishes. She could still hear the raspy breathing from the other side of that door in the west wing. Something had been behind it, alive but not human. After dinner, she returned to her room and locked the door. But she didn't sleep. She sat by the window, staring at the moonlight pouring in across the floor. Her thoughts kept circling back to the name on the chalk door. Ofari. Sacrifice. That night, just after midnight, she heard footsteps again. But this time they weren't trying to hide. A slow, heavy walk. Soft, dragging. The same rhythm as the breathing. Then silence. Long, awful silence. Then her door rattled, not violently, just a test, like fingers lightly brushing the handle. And then, a whisper. Amara. She screamed and backed away from the door. Silence. Morning came like a relief, a fake one. When she went to change the bedsheets in Madam Onari's study, she noticed the small book on the side table. Black leather, no title. She had seen Madam write in it once, always with gloves on. Amara hesitated, then opened it. It wasn't a diary. It was a journal of rituals. Most of it was written in a mix of English and old languages she didn't recognize. But the parts she could read chilled her. The blood of the young is the purest offering. On the night of the red moon, the binding must be renewed. Pain awakens the portal. Life feeds it. Amara flipped a page and found names. Girls' names. Anuli, Chinello, Amina, BC. Names she recognized from the uniforms in storage, all marked with a red X. Then she saw a new name, not crossed out yet. Amara. She slammed the book shut. A noise made her jump, a light click. The mirror above the fireplace fogged up. The girl appeared again, but this time she wasn't whispering, she was crying. She pressed her hand to the glass, and the blood spread wider. Run, she mouthed. Suddenly, the door opened behind Amara. She turned. Madam Onari stood there, smiling. Amara froze. Madam Onari stood in the doorway, dressed in a flowing black gown, her gloved hands resting calmly at her sides. Her face was flawless, smooth, ageless, too perfect. But her eyes looked like something ancient was behind them. I see you found my little book, she said softly. Amara quickly placed the journal back on the table. I was cleaning, Ma. Madam Onari smiled. It wasn't warm. Of course, you're a good girl, Amara. She walked slowly into the room, her heels silent on the polished floor. That's why I chose you. Amara's heart pounded. Chose me? Madam stopped in front of the fireplace. She looked into the mirror, but didn't seem to see the crying girl in it. She was weak, Madam Onari said suddenly, her voice low. The last one, Chinello, she begged me not to take her. Amara felt her knees weaken. Take her where? Where all broken things go, Madam said. to feed the bond, to keep the mansion alive, to keep me alive. Then she turned toward Amara. There's a full moon in 2 nights, a red one, rare, sacred. You'll wear white that night, Amara. I'll prepare the rest. The floor beneath her seemed to shift. Amara couldn't move, couldn't speak. You've seen her, haven't you? Madam Onari asked gently. The mirror girl. Amara opened her mouth, but no sound came. She tries to warn them all, Onari whispered. Poor Ife, still clinging to what's left of her soul, but she never stops me. She walked toward the door. When the time comes, I will call you. Don't run. It'll be worse if you run. Then she left. The door clicked shut behind her. Amara collapsed onto the chair, shaking. She looked into the mirror again. Ife was gone. Only her reflection stared back, pale, frightened, and now marked. In 2 nights, something was coming, something ancient, and she had no idea how to stop it. The day passed like a slow scream. Amara didn't eat, didn't speak, she just cleaned, like a ghost in her own body, watching the clock move too quickly toward nightfall. Mama Keji avoided her now. No more small talk, no more orders, just strange glances, like she already knew what was coming. That evening, Madam Onari sent a message through one of the guards. Wear the white dress in your wardrobe. Come to the West Wing at midnight. Amara returned to her room. The dress was waiting. Long, pure white, pressed and spotless, laid out across her bed like it belonged to someone dead. She tried to run once, got as far as the front door before the guard stopped her, eyes empty as if they weren't human anymore. Just hollow shells doing her bidding. So she went back to her room. At 11:57, she slipped on the dress, hands shaking. At 12 o'clock, the knock came. 2 guards, silent, their faces unreadable. They led her through the dark hallway, past the closed doors, past Mama Keji, who watched from a corner, eyes glassy with fear. They opened the door to the West Wing. Inside was no longer cold. It was burning with candlelight. The hallway was lined with symbols drawn in red, and at the far end stood Madam Onari, dressed in deep crimson, her eyes glowing faintly in the flickering light. Amara's feet moved on their own. The room at the end was large, an old chapel hidden within the mansion. Blood-red drapes hung on the walls. In the center stood a black stone altar. On it was the journal, and next to it, a blade. Madam Onari's voice filled the room. You are the 9th, the last blood maid before my renewal. This is an honor. Your blood will keep me living for another century. Amara shook her head. No. The doors slammed shut behind her. The guard stepped forward. And just as Madam lifted the blade, a burst of wind blew through the room, and all the mirrors shattered. In the largest one, standing tall and glowing with ghost light, was Ife. Now, Amara, she whispered. Amara lunged. Amara didn't know how she moved so fast. Maybe it was fear, or maybe it was the voice, Ife's, in her ears. Strong now, real. Now, Amara. She grabbed the journal first. The moment her hands touched it, something in the air cracked, like thunder without sound. Candles blew out. The floor trembled. Madam Onari hissed, No! Amara backed away, holding the book like a shield. You used them, she cried. You killed them. She fed them to the house, said another voice, not Ife's. It came from the mirror, and in it, more girls, more faces. One by one, they appeared. Ghosts of all the maids who had disappeared, eyes wide, lips trembling, mouths moving together. End it. Madam Onari stepped down from the altar, blade still in hand, but slower now. The candles flickered back on, but the light was strange, no longer warm. Behind Amara, the guards froze. Then, they dropped to their knees, shaking. The air grew thick. Amara opened the journal, The pages flipped wildly on their own until they landed on the final spell, the unbinding. The letters began to glow. "I don't know how to read this," she whispered. "You don't have to," said Ife's voice. "You're the key." Suddenly, Amara's hands began to burn, but she didn't let go. The journal lit up, fire glowing from inside it, and the entire room trembled. Madam Onari screamed, not with fear, but rage. "Do you think you can stop me, girl? I have lived for 100 years. You are nothing." Amara stepped forward. "No, I'm the last." With that, the book exploded in light. Mirrors shattered, walls cracked, the altar split down the middle. Madam Onari let out one final, terrible scream as shadows wrapped around her and pulled her backward into the mirror. Then silence. Everything stopped. The air lifted. The candles went out for good, and Amara stood alone in the dark, still breathing. Morning came like a new world. Sunlight poured through the mansion's windows for the first time in days. Real sunlight, warm and golden. The heavy shadows were gone. The air was no longer thick with whispers, but the house was quiet. Too quiet. Amara walked through the halls slowly, barefoot, the hem of her torn white dress trailing behind her. The West Wing door stood open, empty now, as if the evil it once held had been wiped clean. She passed Mama Keji, sitting on the floor of the corridor crying softly. For what, Amara wasn't sure. For the girls lost, or the years she had been too afraid to speak. The guards were gone, vanished, the mirrors cracked, every one of them. But in their broken pieces, Amara saw only her reflection. Hers, no one else's. She went to Madam Onari's study. The book was gone, burned to ash, the blade too. Only the chair remained empty and cold. A faint scent of roses still hung in the air, like the last breath of a dead queen. In her room, Amara packed her small bag. The dress she'd arrived in, a few coins, the name tag of Chinello, which she folded gently and tucked into her pocket. She paused in front of the mirror once more. There was no fog, no whisper. But for a moment, just a moment, she thought she saw Ife standing behind her. Not as a ghost, but as a girl, smiling. Then she was gone. At the gate, Mama Keji met her. "Will you tell people?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Yes," Amara said. "Someone has to. You were the last." Amara nodded. "No," she whispered. "I was the only one who made it out." She opened the gate. For the first time, it didn't resist. She stepped outside. The wind felt different. The curse was broken. The house would crumble in time. The girls would rest. And she would carry their names into the world. Amara walked down the long road alone, but she was not afraid. Not anymore.